spend probably $40,000 a month in marketing for one of our clinics in Phoenix. We're actually like kind of more focusing on like, all right, how do we develop a stronger brand? There's a lot of common issue that a lot of startups do is they're so focused on making their logo perfect, their website perfect. You need to focus on that. You need to focus on systems. You need to fix that problem because it doesn't matter how much traffic or whatever the case is. So it's identifying where that problem is and just pushing all your resources, solving that particular thing. Like the biggest thing that I learned early on was that money matters. So profits first. Otherwise, you're just going to be struggling forever.
Todd, welcome to eCoffee with Experts. I'm so happy to have you.
Awesome. Glad to be here.
I am glad you're here too. You have been crushing it in the SEO space, in the med spa clinic space. You run your own agency and all of these kind of work together. I think where I wanted to start is, how have you gotten started in building these businesses? Like what was the trajectory and what were the building blocks that got you to where you're at now?
Yeah. So, it really started with a tutoring task prep company that I kind of started in high school. And, that was really the learning curve block, like learning website development, SEO, Google Ads early on, Facebook, et cetera. Made a lot of struggles, a lot of learning. The company didn't really ever do too well, but we grew it, had like maybe 60 tutors at one point. Long story, but basically I decided to get a little van, convert it to a little apartment on wheels, was traveling across the country on it and was in Boulder for summer, was kind of over the tutoring company, met someone there and he was a marketer for a vein clinic and individual. I looked at his website and I saw some real potential with SEO. And since I'd been doing it already for the tutoring task prep company, service-based business, vein clinic, service-based business with just higher margins, I basically said, hey, I can help you rank it. He's like, well, we've tried all these different SEO companies and stuff. It's never really worked. Well, it's like, well, I'll tell you what, you only pay me if I get results. So we basically worked a deal that if I got them to rank on page one for certain keywords, that happened. Fast forward a year, that marketer left. I got connected to the doctor. I took over the entire account, started doing their Google ads and everything really. And at that point, I saw how well the doctor was doing, convinced the doctor that, hey, if I found another doctor, that he would train them. And he wasn't really convinced that I was actually going to show up. And then before you know it, we're flying out there, doctors getting trained. I'm learning about all the medical side, management, authorizations, pre-benefits, a lot of stuff that I had no clue even existed. Came back and we opened a clinic. I think this is our 5th year going into it. This will be I think this is our 5th full year or 4th. Started in 2020. So I guess, fifth full year. And we've really dialed it in at this point as far as that one niche, which is the vein sector, which is treating like vein disease, venous insufficiency, leg pain, ankle swelling, lymphedema, those types of symptoms. So just really dug deep and just continue to go away and test different things. And now we serve probably about 60 different vein clinics across the country, and we own 13 clinics ourselves, 6 here in Phoenix, 3 in Florida, and 4 in Houston that we recently opened in January, and have plans to probably open another 12 next year.
That's insane. And it all goes back to marketing and sales are the lifeline of the business. And you get the advantage of seeing what it's like from the agency side, as well as owning the clinics themselves. So I'm curious, to grow these clinics. There are a lot of brick and mortar or service-based businesses, a lot of business owners in the US who were probably in your same situation where they've tried multiple SEO agencies, they've tried different strategies, different tactics. What is it that's like the core, the foundation, the fundamentals specifically in like vein clinics or naturopathic clinics? What is it when it comes down to marketing? Like, it's everything, yes, but is it mostly SEO, so, paid ads?
Yeah, so local-based businesses, they all kind of follow the same principles, doesn't matter what niche or industry you're in. And you have to have a solid website structure. I think that's important. So having the right architecture on the website, right keywords on the website, good technical SEO, which really just comes down to, at this point, installing a plugin like Yoast. You don't need anything too complicated, and having good title tags and keywords on the page. And that's pretty much it, really. Some schema markup as well, if you have actual physical location. And then, you could write the right structure would be important. So, for example, like let's say you're in, we'll say Phoenix, for example, and you had a location in Scottsdale. A lot of times, sometimes people build out their websites and they have their homepage be all, have one location. Let's say you have one location, you have your homepage be all fancy and talking about what you do, and you don't say anything about Scottsdale. So I would just keep it simple. If like you have a one store location, just make sure the homepage is very specific with what you do. I'm a Scottsdale lawn care service, or I'm a Scottsdale plumber,
Mm,
whatever that service is. And then making sure you have a good title tag that says that, the main keyword that you know people are searching for, and make sure
mm,
it's on the page. And that's pretty much it. And then other than that, getting the Google My Business, that's going to be the most important part of SEO. And
mm-hmm,
then making sure in the Google My Business, it also says what you do. So if you're going to pick a company name, it's better to pick a company name that probably includes the keyword. If you're a plumber, say plumber. If you're an electrician, say electrician. Whatever it is that you do, if you're a local based business, if a naturopathic doctor, probably say that. If you're a med spa, say med spa. And then include that, fill out the Google My Business profile in full. Make sure you include a lot of photos, everything like that, and then just get reviews. And then other than that, there's the backlink aspect after you do your citations and stuff, which are the citations being on Yelp and the different little directories or whatever the case is. And then you kind of do the backlinks. And that alone will get you pretty good rankings, get you a decent amount of business in your local area. Obviously, it can get a little bit more complex than that, but for the most part, it isn't. I mean, that's really kind of like the foundation. And then there's small nuances and tweaks that you can do as you grow and scale. But for the most
mm.
part, that alone will get you pretty good results.
Mm, man, and with marketing, it's like there's so much to go over. And you, as a serial entrepreneur, it's not just the marketing aspect that you're involved in. Like you're in the client acquisition portion of it. Like I saw on your website, you had data specifically for a lead vein clinic where you saw, talking about making it accessible for prospects to get a hold of you. 7%, 2/3 of people who visited the website would prefer to call rather than fill out a form. Knowing your demographic, knowing your market. But I'm curious, with process, with operation, I have this book right here, Traction, which I know
Yeah.
you're a big fan of. What other sort of frameworks do you think of that make your life easier as a serial entrepreneur, scaling businesses?
Yeah. So, I mean, I love Traction. I've probably read that book like 5 times. Also Scale Up, Rockefeller Habits, Scalable by Ryan Dice, new book. They're all like
Mm,
the same types of principles.
mm,
And it's really about kind of in a nutshell, like what Traction is and those other books really are about. It's just kind of helping understand the vision and staying focused. And so it's like one, you create your vision, which should be a 3-year target, typically monetary. And then you can also have some type of overall arching vision that's just a little bit more fluffy for what you're trying to do. But the vision itself is usually like monetary. So how are we going to get to this basically economic target? And then from there, it's just about looking at everything every 3 months. I know sometimes people plan out a year, but if you have to ask yourself, last time you set up some year goals, like when did you, by this time, October or whatever you're listening to this, or whatever the case is, when have you actually stuck to what you said you're going to do in January? Probably never.
mm.
So 3 months is like a really good benchmark, and you'll notice by the end of the 3 months, you already start losing focus. So it's nice to have that reset every 3 months. So I've been doing that for consistently for I don't know, probably like 10 years at this point, potentially
Mm,
more. I have no clue, but it's been a while. I think actually probably been like 13 years, just consistently having these quarterly goals and, outlining the things that you're going to do in a specific, reasonable, actionable, realistic, and time-based fashion, while also taking into account, value versus effort, what's going to bring the highest value for the least amount of effort. And to quote Alex Hormozy, the newest aspect that I really kind of focus on too is really understanding what is that one bottleneck that's holding your business back. So I think what
mm,
you'll realize is that you have all these different areas in your business that could use help. There's always a million things that you can do. You could do this, you do this, you do this, this. Some of the things are going to add incredible value, but most of the things are not. Most of the things, there are little things that need to be done, and they're really not going to drive things forward. They're really not going to get things to the next level. They may make you feel better if that's really what you want to do, is just feel better. But they're they're not gonna solve the issues. A lot of times you run away from the issues because they're painful. And
yeah.
so something I like to ask myself is, do I rather have pain now or pain now and in the future? Because that's
Yeah.
really what into. It's like if you don't fix that problem, you're going to continue to have pain now and in the
Yeah.
future. Rather than fixing the problem, you may have a little bit more pain, but then you can get through it, and then the future will be a little bit less painful. So I think
Mm,
it's like one, it's like identifying what that bottleneck is, and identifying what stage of the business growth you are. So it could be the bottleneck could be just driving more business. And so a lot of common issue that a lot of startups do is I see them do is like they're so focused on making their logo perfect, their website perfect,
mm,
or this perfect branding or whatever the case is, when really none of that shit matters. All you
yeah.
got to do is be knocking on doors and getting business. I mean, with my company, User Group, which kind of started by accident, the agency, like I didn't have a website or a branding for years, and I was getting
Mm,
clients. And so it really doesn't matter. It's what matters is getting your customers initially. And then later on, like you'll realize that getting customers doesn't even matter because you could drive so much business and you don't have good systems and operations, you're not going to be able to keep them. It can hurt your business a lot. So you need to focus on that. You need to focus on systems. You need to fix that problem because it doesn't matter how much traffic or whatever the case is. So it's identifying where that problem is and just pushing all your resources to solving that particular thing. I completely lost my train of thought of the question, but oh yeah, tractions.
yeah,
That's how kind of
traction.
traditional dials in. Is creating those
Yeah.
goals, thinking value versus effort, creating smart goals, and then focusing on that over the course of the quarter with your team and really attacking those particular things. So it's really important you pick the right things, right? Because if you focus on the right things, you're going to drive the business forward. If you don't focus on
Mm,
the right things, you're not going to drive the business forward. It's really that simple. And so it's just like
yeah.
if you focus on the right things, it's eventually going to do well. And then the last aspect I'll just kind of throw in there is something to think about too is ask yourself if someone else is doing it. If someone else is not,
Mm,
a lot of times I think, especially with new entrepreneurs, whatever the case is, they look for things that people are not doing because they think that's where they're going to do well, which is the exact opposite train of thought, actually. Like, I
mm,
really like the vein sector in business because it was like, all right, it's already proven it's successful. I see all these vein clinics across the state and the country. And some people will go, well, there's a lot of competition. And I was like, yeah, that means there's business. I just got to do better than
yeah.
them. So I think it's a lot easier just to do better than your competitors than to try to start a marketplace that, quite honestly, probably doesn't exist because at this point, someone's probably tried it and it probably failed. So I wouldn't try to go after these unique ideas unless you're into the whole like raising money and trying to blow up a startup and having a 5% chance
Mm,
of winning.
yeah.
And so I think it's a lot safer if you're looking to generate wealth and grow your business and have a lifestyle brand or whatever the case is you're trying to do. And then later maybe do that to just focus on something that people are already doing and then just look at it on a quarterly basis, create smart goals, think value versus effort, and think about what that bottleneck that's holding you to get to that next level.
With all of that, you mentioned a couple things. The first step is really like getting the customers in the door, getting in front of the right people. And it's easier to cast a net into a river where fish are swimming than it is to kind of restructure the river to draw a new path where fish can then swim, which is like creating a new startup idea. Now, you partnered with someone for the vein clinic, but you also have multiple different partners for different businesses where maybe you're not the expert. You bring marketing to the table, you bring business expertise to the table, and they bring maybe product or service expertise. How do you think about finding the right partners? And if somebody is considering growing their business, what would you tell somebody when they're looking for a partner? Kind of the ups and downs or things to
Yeah,
consider.
so you want your partner to bring a whole different set of skills that you bring. Don't find someone that's like you because then it's not really a good partnership. And so for me, a lot of the partners I partner with are providers or doctors. I'm not a doctor. I don't have that skill set at licensing, that regulation, whatever it is. And so that works out really well. And for them, it's what they're missing is they don't have the business acumen. They don't want to do the business stuff.
Mm,
It's a lot for them. And so it creates a really good partner. And so, I mean, that can exist in a variety of different industries and niches as well. You just have to identify like what are the skill sets really needed to drive this business. So, there's, some companies too. I'm sure there's a person who's like, the finance guy, the guy behind the books, whatever the case is. And there's a sales guy, really good talker, whatever the case is. So that'd be a good partnership too, if that's what the business needed. So one, first identifying the business that you're in, making sure it actually has a marketplace, meaning other people are actually already doing what you're doing. Don't try to get creative or fancy, just copy someone initially. You can always give it
mhm,
unique twist along the way. And then if you're trying to find a partner, identifying someone that has the skill sets. I identify first what the skill sets are needed for the business. You could probably just do that easily with ChatGPT. And you can
mm.
also probably ask ChatGPT what would be ideal partners for this. And it'd probably tell you this is the partner, should have these skills, this partner should have these skills. But usually they're very different. And not usually, they should be very different. And you should be
Yeah.
weak in the areas that they're strong in.
Yeah, which is counterintuitive for maybe younger entrepreneurs who want to go into business with their best friend, who they're best
Yeah.
friends because they're very similar, right? But it doesn't make sense in the longer term. Speaking of like, you know, shorter term shorter term lead acquisition versus like long term brand building. What are your thoughts there? And you can push that in terms of, personal brand, or you can push it in terms of like actual strategy like SEO strategy obviously takes a lot longer. Yeah, I guess what are your thoughts on short versus long-term business growth?
I think short's great initially. When you're initially getting started, you're starving, right? And so you should just be knocking on doors and figuring out the easiest way to get your customers in. So direct response.
Hmm.
You know who your customers are. Don't even try to do digital marketing. It's not worth it. If you know your customers are, just knock on their doors. Quite literally, knock on their doors,
Yeah.
call them, send them emails, cold call them, send them postcards. Do what you need to do to get in front of them. I see a lot of people that know who their customers are, and they try to do these digital marketing tactics. It's like, why? Why are you trying to create this SEO and do all this stuff? Like, who cares? They're like, maybe they're searching for you, but you know where they are. Go
Yeah.
and knock on their door. If you don't know who they are, and more like a B2C, and it could be there's 10,000 people in the city and 5,000 people are your customers or patients or whatever the case is, and you don't know how to get in touch with them, then that's when you could do digital marketing tactics. And so you could use things like Google Ads. I think is a great first place because it's very high intent. Take a course on Udemy or something along those lines and just start with $500 a month to be okay losing $500 a month. And that's too much. Do 250. If you can afford 1,000, do 1,000. But just target very, very specific keywords and just that it's like, I know if someone types in this, they're probably going to convert, and then drive them to that one web page that I kind of talked about that had the keywords and whatnot, and just kind of watch it work and just do that. And then I think that would be good starting point. I wouldn't really focus on branding. I think lead generation and just getting to that. What is that bottleneck? And the bottleneck is you don't have enough customers. So just I
Yeah.
wouldn't work with branding. Later on, on down the road, branding definitely becomes a way to really build a really sustainable business that helps reduce acquisition costs significantly. And so that's something we've recently started doing, but we're 5 years in and we haven't even recently started focusing on branding until now. But now, we've capped out our direct mail, we've capped out our Google Ads. We have 2 full-time physician liaisons. We spend probably $35,000, $40,000 a month in marketing for one of our clinics in Phoenix. Well, there's 6 clinics, I guess. But it's there now. It's all right. We've tapped those things out. Now we're moving into TV. Now we're moving into direct mail. And now we're actually kind of more focusing on all right, how do we develop a stronger brand that is more resonates with people want to follow, and then that gets more impact in the community, which ends up driving down acquisition costs. It's a lot harder to track, but it does bring a lot of value. So branding is definitely how I think you build a very, very number one successful business, you can say, in your niche, your industry. It's how you stand out. It's how you win, but it's not how you get started.
Yeah. It almost seems like there's a tipping point at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you're going more direct and then you're going more evergreen, I suppose. A lot of our audience who listen to this podcast are agency owners themselves, and they're helping small businesses around America or even the world, grow and expand. And everybody is talking about LLMs and AEO and whatever other acronym you want to call it. How are you thinking about that, either for, Duzer Group helping the vein clinics, or, if you were consulting an agency owner who wants to help a small business grow and they're hyped up about AI and LLMs? I mean, what's your take on how to approach it right now?
Well, first off, I think if you're an agency owner, if you're doing well and you have 25% plus margins, and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, double down.
And I really mean at least 25% plus percent margins. I mean, I think you could probably even be higher than that. But if you're struggling, and by 25% plus margins, you should be paying yourself a decent wage. It was probably, at least if you're running an agency, depending on the size, let's say your agency is doing $1 million a year, you should probably paying yourself at least $150,000 a year, and then also have 25% margins. In addition to that, maybe it's 1.5 million a year in revenue. If it's not, then you either need to raise your prices, or you need to laser your focus, I would think, on the business. You can achieve that, just because it's you're in business to make money, to bring profit, and then to be able to drive things forward. And you can only drive things forward if you can hire really good talent. You can only hire really good talent if you can afford that talent. And so I would say what's made us really successful as an agency, for us at least, being able to drive really high margins, is that we focus on one niche and really just tackled that, where it's just no one can get anywhere close to competing with us in that niche. One, that I have the inside knowledge on the business, but you don't even have to have the inside knowledge on the business. You can just really just hone in on one niche. And I guarantee you there's probably a couple customers or some place, people that you work with that you just get really good results for. And so if you get really good results for, like, why not just start focusing on that? And I know it's kind of scary at first. It was scary for me when people come knocking on my door and say, hey, I want to give you $5,000 a month. I say no. Because you're not in my niche. But it was probably some of the best decisions I made because it allowed our team to be really laser focused, allowed me to make things a lot more systemized, and allowed the business to be a lot less dependent on talent and more dependent on systems in that niche, which is really helpful because if you're fully dependent on talent, it's going to eat up your margins. Doesn't mean you want some really good talent to help run things, but if you're really just focusing on one niche, it becomes less about the talent. It becomes the systems that you've developed to really serve that one niche in the process because you don't come up with the whole creative marketing process for every single different niche or client every single time. So
you are rocking it. It brings me to another point, like another Alex Hormozy thing. It's like, if you're stuck in the business, look at more, better, new in that order, right? And when we're talking about AI, it seems like everybody is trying to solve the problems
going back
that
to
can be
AI.
solved.
Don't even worry about AI.
Yeah, stop it.
Like, that's basically what it means. If you're a new business owner, I mean, going into AI automation as a company is a great idea. So if I was starting fresh and starting from scratch, that's probably what I would do right now. Sounds like a great little business endeavor, and I'd focus on that. But I guarantee you, in like 5 years from now, there's going to be something else. You shouldn't lose your focus. It's like if you're an agency owner or whatever you're doing, if you can integrate AI to help streamline your processes, which we've done. So we've integrated AI a lot to help streamline our processes, to reduce costs, reduce friction, get better results, maybe eliminate some roles, do that. But like to try to like create a whole new solution using AI, I don't think is worth it. So I think it just kind of pulls away from the objective and the focus. So it just depends on the focus of your business. So it's like if you're, I don't know, yeah, it's like Alex Hormozy says that too, but it's like if you're focused on, if you're doing 25, 30% margins and you're focused on this niche and it's doing well, just get more of that. Just keep doing that. And then I don't think you need to worry too much about AI. Like, using AI to like streamline your processes, make you more competitive, keep you ahead in that niche. You know, use it for the Facebook ads, whatever the case is, and social media. You know, helping with content or whatever the case is. Like, use it for your existing business, but I don't think there's a need to like completely reinvent things.
Yeah. And we're talking about like Naden or Zapier or other like
I use all those tools, but it's just like, keep focused on like what the objective is. It's like you have this business, you're delivering this value, and there's certain steps that you need to take to generate that value. So as business owners, it's your job to identify what those rules are and then compartmentalize them with different steps. And as you review each of those steps that those individuals that you hire execute, and then your job as a manager is to review that they're executing those things. And so you need some type of framework that you're checking in or they're doing so you can ensure that they're delivering the promise that you deliver to the client. And then within that framework, those checklists, if you realize that, hey, if I put Xavier from here to here, it eliminates this step for this person, then put it in there. And then if you also realize I can use AI from this step to this step, and it's going to help with this, well, throw it in there. But don't reinvent that step. That step, you're still generating the same thing. And the same, if you're an agency owner, you're trying to drive on leads, profitable leads, or your business that they can then close and convert. So I wouldn't reinvent it. I would just look at your current systems and then see what aspects or what's very specific steps for that very specific job role you can integrate Zapier or Make or any of those different tools to help drive that value.
What about LLMs? Like, are you focused on visibility on LLMs, or is it more so just like, hey, if we do good SEO, we're going to show up on LLMs?
So I'm starting to look into that, actually. So I listened to like a podcast on that, learned a little bit about it. And from my understanding, like, it's really new, first off, right? And I'm sure you probably know quite a bit being in that space, but like, from my understanding, like having brand mentions helps a lot. So with links, backlinks, and so forth, having brand mentions can help, to your website. I think having good reviews on a lot of reviews is definitely going to help. And from my understanding, like Facebook specifically reviews, because that's tied to Bing and Bing is tied to ChatGPT, have a huge influence in ranking in LLM, specifically ChatGPT. I don't know, like the other ones and the other like Claude and what those systems particularly use, or Perplexity or whatnot. But right now because we have looked, we're ranking pretty good on a lot of those LLMs, but we've started to take some basic strategies such as using brand names in our links rather than just more direct match anchor text just to focus on Google. And then we also are focusing on those Facebook reviews that basically tied to the Bing profile. And so trying to optimize the Bing profiles more because supposedly that it makes sense. ChatGPT is a partnership with Microsoft. So they're going to be using a lot of that data to determine who shows up from a local standpoint. I'm not sure how it is more on a national standpoint if you're trying to rank for national terms.
Yeah, it is a curious case. We find the same thing. Brand mentions are becoming more and more important. LLMs are lazy.
Yeah,
And
that's
what they look for.
definitely like if you're an agency owner or something, you should be keep an eye on because that's already developing. I see leads coming in already that are not a lot, but probably like I don't know. I remember I saw my first one probably only like 6 months ago. Now I probably see them coming in like on different sheets and stuff, probably like every week. They're starting to trickle in. So people are definitely starting to use ChatGPT for searching. That's going to open up a whole new world. It's new, and so yeah, we're definitely staying on the forefront of that and understand that. I think it's important to definitely be as an agency owner learning that and developing new systems. So that would be one of the R&D aspects of your business is starting to learn how to do that, devoting some time into it, and then selling it as an additional service. I would say,
yeah, definitely, dude. Todd, as we wrap it up here, you're a seasoned entrepreneur. Again, congratulations on all your success, and we're really excited to see where everything goes in the future. You mentioned a key point there, which is as a younger entrepreneur, you lose your focus very easily. I'm wondering, in your journey, in your entrepreneurial journey, what was a mistake that you've made or something that you look back and you're like, man, I'm so glad that happened because I learned something from it. I'm curious if you have something to share.
I think the tutoring task prep company, I didn't make much money. And so, and a lot of it was because I wasn't focused on the numbers enough. And so I think to run I don't think at this point, no, especially initially starting to run a profitable company, you really got to be focused on every single dollar and you can't ever lose that focus. And so, that's kind of how I run my companies now. I'm very, to this day, diligent. I mean, I definitely have bookkeepers and different individuals and financial individuals helping out. But, because I wasn't focused on that, I was just so focused on just what was in my bank account, what I could spend. And there's a really good book by Mike McLaughlin called Profit First, which I think is really good. It's like paying yourself first. I see a lot of business owners that they say, "Oh, I made $100,000 this year." It's like, did you? Well, what did you actually take home? Well, I put like 60 grand. I took like $5 grand a month. It's like, well, no, you actually made negative money. Like, what do you mean I made negative money? Well, if you had another job, you'd be making $100,000 given your skill set. And so you actually made negative $40,000. And it's like, well, oh crap, that doesn't sound good. Yeah, that doesn't sound good. And so it's like, I think it's going into the business from the start. It's okay for that first period to like be, maybe using sweat equity, but you should also value that. You should understand that. You put that on the balance. So it's like, if you're starting a business and you're working for free, still value your time and throw that on the balance sheet as far as like an expense on the business. You can actually see your true loss. And so it's like that first year, you're maybe because I'm going to pay myself $100,000 wage. I don't have a $100,000 wage. On the balance sheet, I'm showing negative 100,000. And so it's like, I would think that's kind of like the new focus I take with all the businesses at this point is just really focusing on every dollar, making sure I'm getting paid from the start for every project I'm working on. And then also making sure that we're taking headway and we're hitting our projections, or making the necessary adjustments to hit our projections to ensure that the company actually becomes profitable. Because I mean, that's why you're in it, right? You're in it for usually get some freedom, make some money, help some people. I mean, it's really two things. We're going to help people and make money. So people, great, but you're not making money. That sucks. If you're making money, you're not helping people. Well, shame on you. But, but I mean, like, you're not going to feel good. Sorry. But if you're doing both, and so I think it's the biggest lesson I learned in we're doing the tutoring task prep company was I was just so focused on just like just growing the business, the day to day and whatever the case was. And if I had extra 10 grand in my account, like, oh, I can make this higher. And there's no strategic way around it or thinking. There was no looking at the numbers and there was no paying myself first, where it was like, I really don't have money because I should be paying myself this wage. And so I like lived that way for so long, just kind of slow, just somehow getting by. I think so many business owners live that way. And I just like urge you, like, stop living that way. And if you think it's not possible, like, promise you it is. The moment you start paying yourself and all of a sudden your bank starts going low and you're like negative or whatever the case is, and you're like, oh shit, how am I going to make payroll? You'll figure it out. You'll let some people go. You'll get more scrappy. You'll work more hours. You got to put yourself in that like really intense, painful spot to figure it out and see if you can persevere through. And then like last thing is like, perseverance wins. If you just keep at it
Mm.
and like you focus on, like I was talking about, I was at quarterly goals and stuff, and you're focusing on the right things, and you just persevere and you don't lose focus on that one task. And if you just have to know what that bottleneck is, so is it leads, is it systems, whatever it is, and just focus on solving that one problem. So it's identifying what that problem is. That's easier said than done. Use ChatGPT to help you to identify that problem. But those are probably the biggest things that I learned early on, was that money matters. So profits first. Otherwise, you're just gonna be struggling forever. And then focus on the right thing. And usually the things you are painful. But just think about it: pay now or pay now and later. Which one do you choose? You're gonna choose pay now.
Not pay now and later. And from my end, like when you put your own salary on the balance sheet, that gives you a more realistic expectation of what you need to hire in to replace yourself out. So you're
Yeah,
not, you don't bring an additional expense when you're trying to exit the business or exit your role at least
exactly.
as the
Yeah.
founder. Makes
I think
total
if
sense,
you just
man.
have a realistic idea of what how companies actually doing, and then you got to make tough decisions. You got to raise your rates. You got to change your things. You got to do different. You got to test different things, and it forces you to do that. If you don't do that, you're not
Mm.
going to be forced to do that, and you're going to be in the same spot you are now that you are in 2-3 years from now, and it's just still going to be a struggle. I mean, you got into business for it not to be a struggle. I mean, you got into business to create freedom, to create wealth, and so make that happen.
Make it happen. Todd, where can we find you online, learn more about Doozer Group, learn more about your other businesses?
Yeah, so I mean, dizergroup.com, my website, a little out of date, but like you can find some of my information there. Yeah, I think that'd probably be the easiest place to find me. I'm on Instagram as well, Todd VanDuzer. I'm not like too active on there. I'm not too active on any of the platforms or anything as of yet. Maybe someday I will. But 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 yeah, I mean, any of those you can definitely find me.
Awesome, man. Well, we are going to have to grab coffee or a drink when I get back to Phoenix.
Sounds good.
And yeah, it was a pleasure to have you on here, man. We'll catch you
Sweet.
later.